think we're peaking at the right time. We're getting better as games go on.
It's go time. It's playoff basketball. Do whatever it takes to win.
Throws it alley. Ayton puts it down. It's over.
We can't keep talking about it now. We got to do it. That's the deal right now.
They have been sensational.
We have our eyes on the prize and we're going to keep going.
This is our freaking moment.
This may be the Clippers' first conference finals, but they're in a familiar spot. Down 0-2, and if history counts for anything, right where they want them. Paul George looking for some redemption after those missed free throws in Game 2. The Suns in sunny LA in another bright spot. They get their future Hall of Fame point guard back in the mix. Yes, that's Chris Paul right there. It's Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals, and we're getting you set for it all in the next 30 minutes live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and the ESPN app as we welcome you into Hoop Streams presented by Thigh Stop, used to be Wingstop. I'm Cassidy Hubbarth in NYC. We got Big Perk in LA, and we're waiting on Jacoby to join us from the Seaport Studios. How you feeling, big brother?
You know what it is? Hey, I'm ready to see who won all the smoke. Western Conference Finals, you know what I mean? Hey, look, a great finish to Game 2. This is my favorite part of the year. Some people look for the regular season to make all-star games and all that. I want to see who steps up when it matters the most. I'm happy to be on Hoop Streams. Let's get it popping.
And you know who's also ready? Chris Paul, as we see him behind the scenes. Chris Paul officially available for Game 3. Paul had been in the league health and safety protocol since June 16th. We'll get more into his impact tonight as we welcome in Jacoby from our Seaport Studios. But guys, I want to really start the show off with a little bit of flavor. And the point guard out east who continues to put on a show as it's time now for today's top flavors presented by Thigh Stop. And no player this postseason has been playing with more flavor than the Hawks' Trae Young.
I feel like I've worked my whole life for this moment, playing the playoffs. It feels good.
Ice Trae.
They hate me that much. I'm obviously doing something right.
Trae Young with a miraculous shot.
You are in the Garden. You might as well take a bow.
It got real quiet in there.
Look out. Here comes Trae. He shoots the three. Bang! They left him wide open.
I'm obviously doing something right. Just got to let my play.
I mean, you guys, Ice Trae is not only proving that he is a star in this league, but he is a showman. So, look, there's been a lot. There's been a lot of moments, but we wanted to list our top 3 spicy, saucy Trae trolls, if you will, this postseason. So, we got to start it off with number 3, and that's the shimmy from last night.
Shimmy.
Even though I'm not going to call it a shimmy. Everyone's calling it a shimmy, and it's just shaking it off, getting comfortable, hit that 3, right, Jacoby?
I mean, he had too much room, too much space. I love Ice Trae, the game. Look at him. And you got to hit it, too. You knew he was going to hit it. His teammates even said they were surprised that he did that.
I mean, it was... Yeah, it was cold. Now, number 2, speaking of, Ice Trae brushing off the cold. I don't, other than Dame and Dame time, is there another player in the NBA who has a move that matches his nickname?
No, it's not.
Other than, I think that's a perfect one, right, Perk?
It's a great point. And look, when you talk about when it matters the most, when they get late in the fourth quarter, no matter if they're struggling or not, he's right there under Dame Dollar for us making clutch shots. This man does not care. He embraces this moment. He is in his bag right now. And when I say in his bag, it is everything. Look, when Ice Trae entered the building, the most important thing that you have to do is dress warm. I don't know if it's a North Face. I don't know if it's a Pele, but you better dress for warm.
You're that Canada Goose. You're that Canada Goose.
Because he's in the building.
And you saw our number 1, speaking of, performing in the clutch, was him silencing MSG. Now, me and our producer, Chris, we came up with that list. You guys, how do you feel? Is there a moment so far in these playoffs you wish were on that top 3 list?
I mean, it's just his consistency. It's really what he does. I mean, I've heard him being compared to Steph Curry, but that's unfair. I compare him to Patrick Mahomes, like a little dude with a funny voice that just controls the game. You know, that's what it is. Like, little dude, funny voice that we've never seen before, controlling the game. He should be compared to Patrick Mahomes, not Steph Curry.
I agree.
So it took a lot of restraint for you not to say funny hair, but I digress.
I didn't say it.
They both do. I mean, you know, Mahomes rocking the faux hawk win. Yes. What were we gonna say, Perk?
But his swag and his tenacity kind of floats in the same category as the great Isaiah Thomas, right? Mm-hmm. He's not afraid of the moment. He has that certain type of swag. He has that certain type of tenacity where he's like, I'm here and do something about it. And we coming on the road. Like, the way he approached yesterday, game 1 against the Bucks, the way that it was like it was his court. He played like he was at home in Club ATL, and he did it in great fashion. Look, if you don't like Trae Young or you're not giving Trae Young his props at this moment in time, then you're just a bona fide hater. There's no other way around it.
People keep saying that he's the perfect villain. I actually find him pretty inspirational. I mean, he's a small guy who's just out there with so much confidence. I think he's quickly changed the narrative of being a villain to a guy you can't help but be a fan of. But you mentioned he went into Milwaukee last night. They steal home court up 1-0 on the Bucks. Perk, before the game you tweeted this. I know I've been rolling with Ice Trae and the Hawks throughout this postseason, but every good thing must come to an end. Bucks and 6 carry on. Do you still feel good about your prediction?
I do. You know what? And I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment. Like I said before, Ice Trae is a bona fide superstar. But you know, the Milwaukee Bucks approached that game with their linen shorts on and their flip-flops and their polo T-tops because they took this team for granted. And you know why I say that? If you watch them play, they played careless. They didn't have a sense of urgency. They walked into this game like, oh, this is just the Hawks. We got past the Nets. This is going to be easy. No, the Hawks are here for a reason. And we have this thing in the basketball world that's called the basketball gods. And the basketball gods never sleep. The basketball gods never reward teams that cheat the process. And last night I thought the Bucks did just that, and the Hawks made them pay for it.
How are you feeling about this series, Jacoby?
Well, I also pray to the basketball gods. I think the basketball gods saw the the Bucks jump out to that early lead in the game, kind of what we expected. We expected the Hawks to fold over, but they didn't. But in this series, I still have the Bucks. They're just too big. They're just too strong. And Chris Middleton's going to show up at some point. At some point in these playoffs, Chris Middleton is going to show up the way that Jrue Holiday has in the last couple games. I think that the Bucks still win the series, but I will never, ever, ever root against Trae Young because I just love him so much.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Middleton, they were that 1-3 away. I mean, they were far away on that Pat Connaughton 3, but that's for another day and another discussion. So we'll see what the future holds for that series. And guys, speaking of future, let's run through some of the great mask on in history, starting with June 10th, 2004, one of the most famous masked men in NBA history. The Pistons' Rip Hamilton had 31-point performance in Game 3 of the 2004 NBA Finals on the Pistons' way to the championship. And how about December 15th, 2012? Kyrie Irving, with a black mask to protect a broken jaw, drops a then career-high 41 points on the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. March 3rd, 2012 as well. His mentor, Kobe Bryant, scores 38 points versus the Kings. This mask was later auctioned, guys, for charity, raising $67,000. I'm sure that could go for a lot more if it was auctioned off today. March 3rd, 2014, LeBron James scored a career high in Miami Heat single-game record, 61 points in a win versus the Charlotte Bobcats. And then in March 4th, 2015, maybe the best mask performance of them all, because don't you remember, he had a dent in his face practically. That's Russell Westbrook. Remember this one, guys? Dropped 49 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, triple-double. Exactly, versus the Sixers. And finally, we got April 19, 2018, the big man Joel Embiid, after missing 10 games, the 76ers tied 1-1 in their first round playoff series. Embiid returned in Game 3 to drop 23 points in a 20-point road win. The Sixers went on to win the series 4-1. And for more on if Devin Booker will join that list of masked men and for the latest ahead of Game 3, which she'll be on the sidelines for, the one and only Rachel Nichols. And Rach, the team initially announced that Booker had 2 stitches in his nose, needed further evaluation to determine if it was broken. But what more can you tell us about his injured nose and how he's feeling today?
Yeah, well, you know what he said after the game on that night after the game, too? He said, I'm still pretty confident. So I think he thinks he's going to do okay, Cass, both on and off the court with the nose banged up. On the court, he is wearing a mask tonight. He used that mask during shoot-around, went through fine, so they're confident he's going to be comfortable this evening.
Well, I think a little something that can give him another boost of confidence. His running mate, Chris Paul, is expected back tonight. What have you heard about his, let's say, eagerness to return and his involvement while he was out?
Well, look, we know Chris Paul is not going to sit back idly by and just let things happen. So he was on the phone to everyone, on text, on FaceTime through this whole thing. He and Monty had dozens of conversations while he was in those COVID protocols. But when he walked onto the bus this morning was the first time that players got to see him. Monty Williams said there was just an exuberant moment of all of his teammates. They finally feel they are back how they belong. And Deandre Ayton told me that he was lacing up his shoes at shoot-around this morning. And before he even saw Chris in front of him, he heard the voice, Cass. You know that voice telling him things. So he said that they are ready for Chris Paul chirping in their ears tonight. They've never missed it so much.
I really hope after this series, or the playoffs in general, Chris Jr. was just shooting his dad during those 2 games, because I feel like we need that footage of how he was doing during those first 2 games.
Absolutely. Well, you know, his daughter just started playing basketball, and she actually hit a game winner the same night that Deandre Ayton sank that game-winning basket. So it was a good day all the way around in the Chris Paul household.
Yeah, it was in the air for sure. Meanwhile, the Clippers, and Paul George specifically, they've logged a lot of minutes. We know they're the comeback kids in these playoffs, but where's their confidence level, even when down? And should there be concerns of wearing down?
Yeah, I mean, look, yes, there should be concern, but also, what are you going to do about it, right? I mean, that's the answer I've gotten from the Clippers every time I've asked about this, including I talked to Ty Lue about it just about an hour ago, and he's like, it is what it is. Now, they did give the entire team the day off yesterday as a, quote, dark day. That means don't even come in and get shots up. Just actually take the day away from basketball. And they actually decided that before the loss, so that would have been win or lose in Game 2, but they have played a tremendous number of games in a small amount of time. All of their series have been every other day leading up to tonight's game, so they were ready for a little break, and they are hoping that everyone comes back a little mentally rejuvenated today. And physically, it's sort of, as Ty says, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do? But if anyone knows a thing or two about endurance, it's you. Hosted The Jump earlier today, now on the sidelines tonight for Game 3. Again, don't miss Rachel, weekdays at 3 p.m. on The Jump. Thank you, and have a great call tonight, Rach.
Thank you, Cass. See you soon.
So Devin Booker will be in a mask. You know who was also in a mask back in 2008? Celtics.
Perk.
Check out our guy Perk there in the middle. Masked up. Well, kind of. Didn't really keep that mask on there, big boy.
Yeah, I mean,
you kept it on your forehead.
They could have gave me some better straps though in the back. I mean, my God. But look, I that season I had broke my nose like 5 times. And you know what? I was like, you know what? Let me put this mask on and say forget it. But they could have gave me better straps. But you know how the Beantown is. Danny was like, who cares? Be a man's man. It's like, what you talking about? Be a man's man. At least have you kind of looking all right.
I mean, what was that process like? Because I saw Mark Spears on earlier reporting on SportsCenter that Devin Booker actually asked the advice of Rip Hamilton as far as what to do with wearing a mask, and Rip told him don't take it off ever in timeouts on the free throw line, because you have to get used to it. If you get used to taking it off, you're never going to be able to just forget about it. What do you remember about just the process of having that face shield?
Well, one, it was hard for me to breathe because I was 6'10", 285 pounds, okay? And then secondly, they're in 2 different categories than me, right? I was a guy who was a rebounder and a banger down low. the mask didn't really affect me. I wasn't a guy going out there getting you 28 a night like Devin Booker is. So, he probably don't need to take it off because he need to make sure he had a feel and make sure everything feels right because he actually has to go out there and get buckets for his team. I didn't, so I battled through it. I actually love it because I was tired of getting my nose broke.
Well, Jacoby, you had a post on Instagram welcoming Devin Booker to the club.
Welcome.
Can you explain?
Well, I'll say this is, if you notice, my nose is on the side of my face too. You know what I mean? It just gives us character. It makes us unique. And I would say that I broke my nose playing basketball a couple times, but I also broke my nose outside the court a couple times too. And when I say I broke my nose, that means someone else did. But I will say this to Devin Booker, don't wear the mask. You're going to have reconstructive surgery after the season. Just take the mask off. Because the truth of the matter is it's not going to get broken again. Make yourself feel as comfortable as possible. And you know what? It is kind of sexy when you got it over to one side. It looks kind of good. I'm not getting mine fixed until I'm done with rec ball and I'm done with pickup. I'm going to be 65 by the time I get this thing fixed. I can barely breathe through it right now.
Jacoby, your flaws are perfect. They are absolutely perfect. But I will say, so I was covering that game, too, in Phoenix, and the team said, he just had stitches on his nose, and that originally they evaluated and didn't break it. But I was going to say, as a broken nose expert.
Oh, yeah. Listen, Perk played in the NBA for a long time. He's one of the best NBA analysts. I'm the best broken nose analyst in the game. I've had my nose broken about 14 times. And trust me, his nose is broke, and he's going to get surgery after the season. So I would just forego the mask and let it get broken again because it doesn't make a difference once you get it fixed in the offseason.
Well, another reporting note that Mark Spears had on SportsCenter was that he didn't take any anesthesia when he was getting his nose situated. I don't even, you know the whole broken nose process.
I've had it broken back. It doesn't feel good. It does not feel good. I didn't have anesthesia,
did you get anesthesia?
either. I think that he probably wasted his time getting it broke back. I would wait until after the season to get it broke back, honestly. This is the one time I've actually been an expert on ESPN. This is the one time I've actually been an expert on ESPN. It feels so good. Perk played in the league for so long. I've had my nose broken so many times that I know the nose broken game. Just let it be broken again. Let it get broken in the offseason, get it fixed.
Well, let's get you on the Suns training staff. That's all I'm going to say. But, you're also here to be a basketball analyst. So let's get into it. Let's dig a little more into Suns Clippers and play a little game called Give Me a Number while doing so. And let's start off with the number 91.
Look at the graphics.
I know. Aren't we fancy?
I love it.
I got a budget.
Stop. That's the field goal percentage, 91 is. Deandre Ayton shot from the paint in game 2. It's the third highest field goal percentage in the conference finals in the last 25 postseason. Only Shaq's 92.3% in 06 versus Detroit and LeBron's 100% versus the Pacers in 2013 are higher. Perk, Ayton is good.
He's really good. Matter of fact, he is the guy that he's the unsung hero to me. We already know what Devin Booker is going to do. We're watching what Cameron Payne is going to do. But DeAndre Ayton is averaging 22 points and 11 and shooting almost 100% from the field. And I don't know if the Clippers have an answer for him. And we all know that T. Lue is the guy, the coach, one of the best coaches as far as making adjustments. But this is not Rudy Gobert, and this is not the first round against with Porzingis. This is a guy that is that is super athletic. This is a guy that's anchoring the defense. He can switch 1 through 5. He got post work. He could be a live threat at the basket. He has a nice 15-foot shot. He does it all. And so I'm looking at him, and I'm like, right now he's on a mission, and he can't be stopped.
Yeah. Look, and the Clippers have said that. They said it after game 1 that, DeAndre Ayton is different. He is a different caliber big man than they've faced so far this postseason. And another aspect to just Ayton's journey. Yes, he was the number 1 overall pick in 2018, but, he had some issues early on. One thing Monty Williams said is that he's really, really matured in being a professional, understanding the extra work it takes, and cannot say enough about his work ethic, and it's really paying off so far here in these playoffs. I want to move on to our next number, and that's 610, Jacoby. That's the number of minutes Paul George has played in this postseason. The only players close to that are Kevin Durant with 485, and he played basically 50 games, it felt like, versus the Bucks, and Devin Booker with 484. PG has played the equivalent of 2.6 full games more than anyone else. Jacoby, are you concerned about fatigue starting to catch up to PG?
0% concerned about fatigue catching up to PG. We saw in the Nets games, you got Kevin Durant playing 48 minutes. This is playoff basketball. This is when superstars step up. And you know what I'm fatigued of? Paul George slander. Yes, he missed a couple free throws, but he is the person that put them in position to make those free throws matter. He's the one who got the buckets that people forget. The Clippers were down in that fourth quarter. The Clippers came back on his back, and I feel like too many people talk about those 2 free throws and don't talk about the fact that he got the buckets to get them back in the game. I'm a big Paul George fan. I'm not worried about fatigue. This is not time of the season when you worry about fatigue. You can worry about that right before the All-Star game.
Well,
you're absolutely right. He hit 2 clutch free throws early in the fourth and then 2 go-ahead buckets before missing those free throws. Perk, sorry to cut you off. What did you want to say?
Well, I was going to say this to all those out there that gives PG a hard time and the Paul George slander, and I'm one of them. Here's the reason why. Paul George brought this upon himself. And when he did that by giving himself a nickname called Playoff P. So when you jump out there and you give yourself your own nickname, Playoff P, then people are going to look at you to perform and step up, especially when it matters the most. Kobe Bryant gave himself a lot of nicknames, and guess what? Kobe Bryant lived up to those nicknames time and time again. So again, some of the criticism that Paul George gets when he don't deliver is fair. Some of it is unfair, but he brought this situation upon himself.
I mean, I think for me, the fair criticism is sometimes he says too much, but that has nothing to do with, the type of play he has on the court, and, do with that what you may. Let's move on to the third number, 28. That's a number of minutes. New Celtics head coach, Ime Udoka, played in his short 4-game Laker career. But it's enough to make him the first and only of 452 players to appear in a regular season game for the Lakers and eventually coach the Celtics. Perk, your thoughts on Brad Stevens' choice for first head coach?
You know what? I actually love it. I feel like this is a guy that has paid his dues, a long-time assistant, raised under the great Greg Popovich, played with Hall of Famers like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili. He played also with Tony Parker, and then he coached Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden this past season. What the Celtics need is someone that their young stars is going to respect. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And from what I heard is that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were heavily involved with picking their coach, and they wanted either him or Chauncey. So they're happy. I'm happy. The fan base is happy. Great hire by Brad Stevens.
Jacoby, another coach hired today, Rick Carlisle, going back to the Pacers. Did this move surprise you?
Oh, not at all. I think this was a perfect hire for the Pacers. A lot of people forget that Rick Carlisle was an associate head coach with the Pacers underneath the legend Larry Bird. He's got Pacer blood running through his veins. There's a reason he was with Dallas for 13 years. Not a lot of head coaches coach a team for that long, and he is an excellent head coach in this league. And also, I like low expectations in my professional life, and there's pretty low expectations for the Pacers right now. They get to the second round of the playoffs, they throw a parade for them. And that's perfect for Rick Carlisle right now with this young team. They got an all-star in Sabonis. They've got good pieces. They've got Brogdon, Miles Turner coming back from injury. I love this for the Pacers and this franchise.
And Woj reporting on Countdown that Jason Kidd is a front runner for the Mavericks head coaching position. Of course, we know that Rick Carlisle actually just on his way out was giving his nod to Jason Kidd and saying that he thinks that he should be the Mavericks' next head coach. It was Dirk Nowitzki also sending his support. Perk, what do you think about Jason Kidd taking over the head coaching role for his former team?
I love it, and I think it's going to be the best thing for Luka Doncic, right? The best thing for us how to even get better at being a floor general, how to be able to run an offense where you're not pounding the ball 20 seconds out of the 24 seconds of the shot clock. how to be able to play off the ball. Remember, Jay Kidd learned how to play off the ball later in his career. And I think it's good for the Dallas Mavericks because now Luka, you're bringing in a Hall of Famer, a guy who did it the best at that point guard position, and Luka has he has to respect Jason Kidd. He has no other option. What can you tell Jason Kidd when he holds Luka accountable? So I love that Rick Carlisle endorsed him. I love that Dirk endorsed him. I feel like this is the right fit because he's also won a championship there.
Perk, I also kind of pulled a U, so I just want to correct myself. Ime Udoka, because I don't even know what I said in that first segment.
Hey, Cassidy, it happens to the best of us, okay? We all know what you were saying.
You know Rudy Gobert.
I gotta say Rudy Gobert because I gotta put the French into it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Giannis was in the league for like 2 years before I said his last name. Don't worry about it.
Antetokounmpo?
Giannis' name is pronounced
Antetokounmpo.
two different ways, okay? You got the Greek way, you got the Nigerian way, Just as like, and Rajon Rondo, I think it's like the most, missaid name in NBA history. We'll move on. Just a few minutes left here till tip-off of Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. We've seen the Clippers down in this spot in both these series. Game 3 versus the Mavs saw LA rally behind a combined 65 points from Kawhi and Paul George. The Clippers went on to win 4 of the next 5 to close out the Mavs. Then we had Game 3 versus the Jazz guys. That was another combined 65 points from PG and Kawhi. Their first of 4 straight wins to close out that series. But did you guys hear a trend? No Kawhi to team up with for 65 for Paul George. So who needs to step up at home tonight for the Clippers, Jacoby?
Oh, no. Cass, I'm sorry for Clippers fans. I have to say this. Do you know who they need? They need Reggie Jackson. They need Luke Kennard. They need Morris. They need those others to play big tonight because if you look at the turnarounds in the previous 2 series that the Clippers had, they were led by Kawhi Leonard. It was really Kawhi Leonard. Look at his numbers in Game 3 and Game 4 in the previous 2 series. He basically put the team on his back with the help of Paul George. But tonight, it's going to have to be like a Reggie Jackson 25-point performance, a Luke Kennard 20-point performance. They're going to need a lot of help for Paul George tonight, but I'm not counting them out.
Perk, what do you think? I mean, we're looking right now at Marcus Morris, who, he hurt himself in Game 1. He's key to that small ball lineup. What are your predictions for tonight? Who needs to step up for the Clippers?
Well, they need Jesus. Okay, that's the first thing.
Come on now.
But who needs to step up are the bigs. Look, Ty Lue is gonna have to get more out of Zubac and DeMarcus Cousins because somebody has to go in there and neutralize Deandre Ayton. And here's another thing. Devin Booker in Game 2 shot the ball poorly. Mikal Bridges, he shot the ball poorly. So did Jay Crowder. And now you're adding CP3. I'm looking at Reggie Jackson. And Reggie Jackson has been doing a phenomenal job on the offensive end. But on the defensive end, he hasn't been able to guard a caged dog. Cameron Payne has been tearing him up. And I'm looking at it right now. In my honest opinion, I love T. Lue, but I have the Suns winning this game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Because look, lots talked about Ty Lue's ability to make adjustments, but it didn't really come down to the adjustments in Game 2. It came down to missed assignments, and I'm not trying to pile on to Paul George, as we already had that discussion, but those missed free throws. But guys, Jacoby, you gave some fantastic basketball analysis, but I will say you knocked it out of the park with your broken nose analysis. As Rachel Nichols
Foremost
just
broken
reported.
nose analyst in the game. There's no one who's had their nose broken more than mine. It's happened on the court a bunch and off the court a couple times too.
Right, and Rachel Nichols just tweeting out that Devin Booker told her his nose was broken in 3 places, but that the doctors reset it yesterday and the swelling has gone down significantly. So you see he's wearing the mask. She asked him if it's going to be limiting his vision. He said, all I need to see is the basket tonight. So we will see if he will be added to, the mass men performance list that we showed you earlier tonight. It's going to be a good one because, even though the Suns were up 2-0, they've both been close and exciting games. So we'll see what they have in store for us tonight, 9 Eastern on ESPN. That's going to do it for this edition of Hoop Streams presented by ThighStop. Log into your cable providers now to watch Suns Clippers game.
ThighStop. I'm ordering some ThighStop right now.
Right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, turn it up. Go a little something like this. Now drop the beat. Come on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.